So where did that term sodomy come from?
I don't know what.
That's how, yes, that's how deeply our culture is ingrained with Christianity. If we use the word talent, where did the word talent come from? There's a parable in the Bible. It's called the parable of the talents. Our word talent came from that. Talent, actually, in that context, was a unit of money. And that's how deeply ingrained culture goes to us. I mean, we accept our language, and it impacts our whole thought process, and in deeper ways than we even consider. And so when we hear the word sodomy, that's a crime. That's forceful sexual act. Yes?
I've had clients that are in specific religions that every Sunday at 3, they have to report to their room and have sex with their spouse, whether you want to or not. And that creeps me out.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy.
Don't make me. So then I have to be like, that's creepy, that's not appropriate. You don't just summons a woman into the bedroom every Sunday at 3.
She agreed to it?
Yeah, because she's.
Well, maybe she's in this.
Maybe you should give her the wheel.
Maybe she's in this, because who used the DV wheel before, the power and control wheel? Okay, so this is a resource for working with people that are domestically violent relationships. And you see this almost universally. You see somewhere on the wheel in a domestically violent relationship or abusive relationship, you see these things being used. One of the things that's used is religion. You know, well, the Bible said that, the man's the head of the household, using children, using one's privilege, economic abuse, coercion, threats, using intimidation.
It's gaslighting. That's mental illness.
Well, yeah, this is. I'm kind of going a different way. Okay, so if we're working with a domestic batterer, we're trying to figure out what beliefs are supporting this domestic violence. I'm gonna switch this back to a biblical story to end on, something that's been ingrained in us, and it's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And most people assume, because this has been the argument, that this refers to homosexuality. And I've studied this text, looked at a lot of scholars' writings on this, and I'm not convinced that it refers to homosexuality, people that are not by choice choosing their sexual orientation. I'm going to propose through this that it's a story of hospitality. And here's why. Abraham and Sarah, the two main characters of the story, and Abraham, the patriarch of all the religion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And they're the patriarch and matriarch of Judaism. Christianity and Islam were camping out in a territory. They have no children. She's barren, Sarah's barren. But do have a small herd of animals they're tending to and living off of. Living somewhat of a nomadic lifestyle. Suddenly, strange men appear traveling toward them. Instead of becoming afraid and defensive, you have some strangers coming up. I've got a bat down. They're going to kill me, take my wife, take my livestock. Abraham runs to greet them, bows at their feet, brings them into his tent, washes their feet, kills the best calf, and offers it to them as a feast on their journey. These are strangers. In the ancient world, people that were walking along that weren't landed, they were most likely bandits or people set out to do harm. People were supposed to have a community that they were, very, very committed on. We didn't have individuals then. We had communities. We're very individualistic, removed from history here in the United States. Welcoming the stranger, showing hospitality to them, as God instructs numerous times throughout the Bible to accept the resident alien, the widow, and the orphan. This is a common theme that echoes throughout the Old Testament and into the New Testament, way more than homosexuality does. The magnitude of this scene cannot be understated, as it is through these acts that Abraham and Sarah received their blessing and covenant of a child, an heir. They had no children up to this point, in essence, no future. This scene occurs immediately before the scene where the travelers descend into Sodom, where they are greeted by a mob of residents who are going to rape them. The most inhospitable thing one could imagine to greet a stranger. Like prison sex. Now think about sex in prison. Are people necessarily homosexuals that go to prison? What's prison sex about? Control, dominance. Like prison sex, the residents, this was not a threat for exploring their unbridled passion. It wasn't about their sexual energy or their sexual orientation. It was an expression of dominance and control. Because if there's a city of people and all the guys are homosexuals, are they going to have more people? No. That city would have died off because they can't have people. It doesn't have to do with sexual orientation. They were going to rape the men into submission. They were strangers, and this is how Sodom greeted strangers, to exert power and control and elicit fear and terror. Make the traveler fear for his life instead of welcoming with an open heart. This was the juxtaposition. Reading the Bible as a continuous story, so the juxtaposition means you have an image of Abraham offering hospitality over here, and the image of Sodom, and the promise of everlasting life through your heir, Isaac, versus Sodom, who's going to be destroyed because you brought in these people and you raped them and you didn't treat them hospitable, versus Abraham, who laid down the best of everything for strangers. Behavior mattered. That make the traveler fear for his life instead of welcoming with an open heart. This was the juxtaposition. Reading the Bible as a continuous story instead of proof texting, what Sodom and Gomorrah saw happen, then attempting to justify one's own opinion. The sin of Sodom was its lack of hospitality. Its evil on display, its need to assert dominance over the innocent and the vulnerable. When Lot offered his daughters, an abhorrent act in itself from our cultural perspective, to assuage the mob, it wasn't because they were homosexuals, they turned them down. It was because Lot and his family were already known to the men. They were already subject to the ruling mob's control and way of doing things. Then, there's a peculiar scene when Lot and his family are escaping, where Lot's wife turns around and becomes a pillar of salt. One strand of interpretation sees this as an act of disobedience. However, bigger possibilities remain. In a story about dominance and control, where the character escaping did not submit to the will of the angry mob, but stayed true to their heart, that the pillar of salt appears more apt to describe one's journey away from abusive situation. Like the victim in an abusive relationship, when she finally decides to leave, the heart is split. The heart is torn from what is known, from what is familiar, from what the abuser wanted the victim to think was love, and just the way things are. The heart becomes torn because the mind control was so pervasive, so convincing, so overwhelming. Instead of looking to the future and the path that was needed to escape, the woman turns around to entertain thoughts and memories of what once was in effect, and then becoming in effect, the future of what was in effect freezing progress and becoming forever stuck between fleeing the path ahead and the future. From the eyes of someone working with abuse victims, keep your eyes focused on the steps in front of you. Don't look back. You already know what lies behind you. You've lived it daily for years. There is no change. There's nothing you can do to change the past. There is no fond memory that is going to give you help to move forward. Keep your eyes in front of you on your new life. Do not long for Sodom. That which you are part of is no more. Even if you return to those thoughts, you will be destroyed along with it. So I made that into a reaching out for somebody that was escaping an abusive relationship. And so by looking at the text in a bigger situation and just proof texting this, well, it just means that they're going to be homosexual. That's not what's happening. It was about power and control. And it looks a lot like domestic violence. And when you try to tell somebody that gay is wrong because you have the entitlement that your religion is better than theirs and can put your own oppressive beliefs on other people, again, it's about power and control. So when you see somebody abusing power, when you see somebody overextending and hurting others, I think it's up to us to step in and make a difference. So I appreciate y'all's I'm done. Sorry. I don't have time for Hinduism. I can make some of this PowerPoint available. I think hopefully what you've gotten today is kind of by looking at stuff that's familiar to us, you can extend that to things that I wouldn't do justice to by doing a quick survey of religions. So thank you, you guys are very good.
Thank you.
For CEUs, I guess I don't have the papers, so I guess if you need CEUs, I will try to find me, Mrs. Kirby.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yes. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. Are you? I didn't think so.